Hello, YouTubers, and welcome back to another episode of The Grandstand here on the Ohio Patriot Education Network YouTube channel. I am, as always, your host, AR, the Ohio Patriot. And for today's episode, we're going to talk about root causes and current effects that correlate to them. So basically, I just finished up with Honda and them guys in his chat. And one of the things that was brought up during that chat was basically, you know, uh, chicks and essentially like dating options and things like that. And this is things I've talked about on this channel like about the last year or so before we had to do the name change and the whole slandering thing, everything else like that, which is a big fucking whatever at this point. Um, but yeah, I've discussed some stuff about this before with my own options and things like that. And I'm gonna say it like I said it before, dude. There is a reason why I won't date leftist women in this country, and it really does go back to the fact that they tend to be the chicks that are super pro-abortion. They also tend to be the same chicks that want to talk about diversity and inclusion and crap like all the time or whatever the case be. And then when it actually the rubber meets the road and shit, they're the ones that will be some of the most racist pieces of shit out there. Is what it is, dude. Or they're like, oh, you're a conservative black dude or whatever. You're not part of this thing anymore. Kind of deal is what it is, and it's a bunch of crap, dude. Entirely. Um, Now, granted, I'm using that specific reference because there is a lot of conservative black dudes out there now who have been sort of shuttered and called all kinds of things by these same leftist women, dude. These same Karens and everything else like that, or Becky's, or whatever you want to call them at that point, dude. Because there's a lot of them that people always call Karens, but in reality, there are quite a few that are just Becky's, which is basically the difference between Karen and Becky. From my understanding, is that Becky is the chick that doesn't call the manager. Karens do, whereas there's a lot of Becky types out there, man, that will sit there and fucking bitch and moan and babble on some more, whatever the case be, and like make a scene and everything else like that, and make it all about them, and sort of espouse all kinds of bullshit. What it is, dude. And the real problem comes down to being is that when you go to the root causes and the correlations from today's society and stuff like that, there is a lot of stuff that you can look at our country right now, specifically here in the United States of America, but you can go overseas and for that matter, dude, and really honestly any European nation for the past 60, 70 years, you can look at and see the same stuff happening in all these places, because again, it's one of these things where even people have admitted at this point. I forget what the woman, I keep trying to remember what the woman's name is offhand, but basically it was some chick back in like 2000, 2001, place in there. We talked about it one of the other grandstands before this, and she had gone on this whole thing about some stuff and was talking about Europe and like different European nations over there is what it was, like whether it be England or the UK or Britain or France or whatever, and was basically saying straight up like, this is why we're trying to implement immigration here of non-white people, because they wanted to have a takeover is what it was, dude. And it's the same thing here in America that they've been trying to do for years now. It's them trying to do that kind of stuff is what it is, dude, because they it's just like when you go back to the 65 Immigration Act. Actually, is a root cause right there is a great example. The Hart-Celler Act, if you will, is what it was called at the time, because it was two, I believe, sitting senators that were named Hart and Celler respectively, and they sold us all out at that point, dude. They said straight up, they're like, oh yeah, Senate/Congress, this is never going to change America's demographics at all. We're not going to be a non-white country in 20, 30 years down the road. No, allowing mass migration into this country is perfectly fine. And that's exactly what it did, dude. It fucking changed our demographics entirely. Now, again, I'm not going to sit here and say we're not a melting pot nation, because technically we're supposed to be. The problem is that far too many people come here that don't want to melt. And I've talked about this several times, dude. And that's the problem, dude. When you're, bringing in people, whether it be, Islamic/Arabic folks and stuff like that will never fucking melt into our country, or whether it be other folks for that matter that want to sit there and they'll come into this nation, could be anything from, Central American countries like Venezuela or Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala, etc., where they will come into a state. Usually, it's a major city like a Philadelphia, which is one of the biggest ones that happens right now, actually, where they have these kind of places at, or it's like a Columbus, Ohio, or a Chicago, Illinois, or something like that. And they'll create like these small, like little, 10, 12 block areas, maybe even less than that, maybe more like 6 or 8 block areas, where it'll essentially become whatever the country they came from, Venezuela, El Salvador, Honduras. It'll become little whatever that country is what it is. And they will tend to never leave those areas. They will always stay in that same area, and they will never learn to speak English because they don't have to, because they can have everybody around them that will speak Spanish or whatever their native language is from the nation that they came from, that they originated from, is what it was. And that's the biggest problem right now, dude. You know, it's like, yeah, it's great that we're supposed to be a melting pot nation and everything, but when you're not actually melting, when you're refusing to actually, integrate into society, that's where you start getting these culture clashes from all the time. And again, that's one of these root causes that comes straight from the Hart-Celler Act, is what it is. Or it's like the same exact thing right now where we're seeing with the, the effect and causation, the root causes of, 60, 70 years ago, back in the, late 50s, early 60s and stuff like that, which honestly, what's interesting is when you look at American history, and this is something I didn't get a chance to actually bring up during Honda's chat last night, which is there's a reason why you always have people like Donald Trump or other folks from that era will always bring up the 1950s and be like, yeah, it's time to make America like the 50s again, kind of thing is what it is, dude. Where, it was all we were all like prosperous and everything else like that. What they failed to talk about during that whole thing is how the only reason that America was a prosperous nation back then was because we were the only first world nation after a giant fucking war between Germany, Russia, France, and pretty much the rest of the fucking world at that point, dude. Which was World War II. America got into it so late that we remained kind of unscathed from everything, dude, economically. Actually, one of the main reasons that people don't even, talk about, one of the real reasons we actually got into World War II to begin with, dude, it wasn't because we wanted to save a bunch of people's lives, being the, Jews that Hitler was gassing in the fucking chambers and stuff like that, dude. It was because the fucking hyperinflation going on in Germany at the time was about to start hyperinflating America. And they're like, yeah, you're not going to fuck with our economy, dude. And that was one of the main reasons we got in there. And then, of course, it was, we also found out there was a bunch of death camps over there after the fact. And it was like, yeah, we got to go save all the people now is what it is, dude. So it was basically a mix of the two things is what it was at the time. And it's kind of the same reason why you go back to the American Civil War for that matter. And you can look at people always, citing slavery for like the main reason why that happened and stuff like that, even though a lot of the reason was actually because you had all these southern states in this country that wanted to basically secede and form their own economy because it was basically the North taxing them into the ground at that time. And the South was like, no, fuck you. And that can actually be proven in like different journals and stuff people wrote that were actually soldiers for both sides is what it was, dude. Actually, a few of my family, various like extended family, cousins and stuff like that, a lot of them fought for the North, but there was a couple that fought for the South because they migrated to Ohio after the fact because they were from like further down south, like Virginia and everything else like that. So, anyway. Okay, I wasn't sure if you were fucking with me, Corey. I was like, all right, man, like, nah, I'm not gonna go on that line. But anyway, but now going back to what I was saying though, with the causation and effect and stuff like that, dude. When you look at our modern day society right now, the root cause stuff for a potential second civil war / balkanization event like that or whatever, dude. We as the people that are living right now consider and talk about why, it would cause something like that to happen again. And it's basically, it's what we're seeing right now. Crazy hyperinflation from Democrat Party. You got fucking what else is going on now besides that? You got potential like them trying to basically get us into a war with Russia and everything else like that now. You have God, I'm trying to think what else would we divide at this point. Immigration would be another one as well. Open border system and stuff like that would be a great example as well. And the thing is, again, when you look at history, it's always written by the winners. It's a situation there where you have people that will sit there and be like, okay, how can we write this to make ourselves look better kind of thing? And that's why you're always seeing like various, adaptations of history where it wasn't the actual complete real history that happened. Then it was basically the side of the people that won in pretty much every case. And the thing is, I guarantee if you got into a time machine and went back to certain places, whether it be the fall of the Roman Empire, whether it be, American Civil War and stuff like that, you'd find a lot of stuff from back in those days, dude. That would be different and stuff like that. And again, going back to the root cause / correlation thing, you have, like I was saying in Honda's chat there, My mother, when she was first starting to work back in the like late 60s, early 70s and stuff like that, as a late teens, early 20s person in this country, she actually worked for a company that produced a lot of ice cream, actually. And there was a guy that worked with her named Slim. At least, I don't know what his real name actually was, but that's what they called him. They always called him Slim. And he had basically been with this woman for like, I think like 10 or 15 years. Like I don't believe that they were married. They were engaged for like a few years after, like before this whole thing happened. But they were not married at the time. They just had a bunch of kids together is what it was. And by a bunch, I mean like 3 or 4, something like that. And you had, this was back in like, right, I believe it was right around like 70 or 71 at the time or whatever. And this is back when you had, various government assistance programs starting up, like, EBT slash food stamps or, um, cash assistance and stuff like that kind of thing through the state. And you had a guy that was going around the neighborhood there where they lived at and just knocking on doors and just asking all the people that answered the door. Usually it was like, single women and stuff like that. It was like, hey, are you a single woman? Do you have children? Do you have a man in the house? Are you married? Et cetera, et cetera. And, most of them would be like, maybe, or whatever the case be, or it's like, nah, or whatever. This chick was straight up like, oh no, there's no man in the house. And what was fucked up was he knew this was going on. He was okay with it. And it had gotten so bad, because I guess she was basically like bilking the government for years on this thing. She actually made him sneak out of the house through various fucking windows to go to work so that she could get more money and more assistance from the government, dude. And yeah, it's just fucked up entirely, dude. But it's not surprising, honestly. I mean, we've seen that shit go on, like I said, for decades there. I mean, that was going back in the 70s, is what it was, dude. But that's the thing, dude. When you're incentivizing, single motherhood, or you're incentivizing, single mother and having government be the baby daddy and stuff like that, all you're doing is incentivizing the breakup of, in that case, it would be a black family. Or it would be everything else for that matter, dude. Whether it be black, white, Latino, otherwise for that matter, dude. You're incentivizing women to be single parents, and you're incentivizing no father figure in the house because you want the father figure to be the government. And it tends to be when you have that kind of, incentivization going on and people fall for it, they will tend to seem to lean when it comes to voting Democrat quite a bit, actually, because it's always tends to be the Democrat Party in most of these cities and states like that. They'll always be like, oh yeah, we'll give you more money. We'll up your, EBT card. We'll up your cash assistance we're giving you or whatever it is, dude. Oh, you like that Section 8 housing you're living in? Okay, we'll keep letting you live there as long as you vote us back in office every single time is what it is. And I'm not going to sit here and say the Republican Party's any better, honestly, dude, because they're both scumbags, honestly. Again, it depends on the state, honestly. And I think it also depends on the person running for office as well on that one. Because I'm not going to sit here and say, like, every single Democrat's a fucking complete piece of shit. Now, granted, if you look at current time period here in 2020, where you have pretty much every single one of them in the state of Ohio running on abortion and anti-gun stuff, like, they can all go fuck themselves is what it is, dude. And when you have the Republican Party in this state basically running on the opposite things of that, for the most part, not everybody, but the majority is what it is, where it's like pro-gun or pro-life, whatever it is. And then, then you have like this kind of third party, libertarian mindset of people that are like, okay, vote us into office for once, and, you can do whatever you want kind of thing, because we're all about freedom and stuff like that, which my biggest issue, and I've said this before, and this is the reason why back in 2016 I created the Internet Libertarian Party. The difference between the Internet Libertarian Party and the actual Libertarian Party in the 1970s is that with the 70s Libertarian Party, they were basically Democrat light at that point, dude. It was a bunch of disaffected Democrats back in that day that created that political party, and it's why they all supported abortion at the time as one of their main platform things. That is the big difference between them and the Internet Libertarian Party I created back in 2016 was ILs, or Internet Libertarians, are pro-life. We are all about, kids and children being born alive, dude, especially with the insane fucking rhetoric of, leftists and just crazy fucking liberal people at this point, dude, where they seem to be all about abortion on demand, at least the most extremists among them anyway. And I'm not going to say everybody's the extremist, but again, we all go back to that what we talked about before, dude, where it's basically, it's a squeaky wheel gets the grease mentality, and it essentially ends up being a situation where you have the people that are, 10, 20, 30 deep or whatever, And the entire thing is that we basically, God, lost train of thought entirely. Fuck. I just looked at one of the comments. I knew lose train of thought entirely on that one. Jesus Christ. No, I just completely forgot what I was going to say now. Sorry, my internet kind of went a little bit dipping at that point for a minute there. And I was also trying to remember where my thought process was. Yeah, that's what I was saying then. So, what you end up having is a situation where you have people who, you basically they keep trying to put us into this mindset. I'm not. This is the actual thing I'm just going down to begin with, but this is what I'm going on right now. That's what it is. Where it's, you either have to vote for one or the other side is what it is. You're either Democrat or Republican. And that's why they do primaries like that and stuff. And unfortunately, there is other options out there. It's just, we're never going to get to those options as long as people keep voting the main two is what it is. And like I said before, dude, it's kind of ridiculous when you look at things and you have, these various debate platforms and stuff like that. And it'll be, oh, you got, two people running for governor. It's like a Democrat and a Republican. It's like, okay, where's a libertarian candidate? Where's a Green Party candidate? Where's the independent? Like, where's all these people on the fucking debate stage? It's bullshit entirely. And my thing of it is, and I've said this before, dude, like, I don't care if you're a fucking socialist or a communist, dude. If you're going to run for office, at least tell people straight up, be like, this is the party I'm running under. And it's the Socialist Party or the Communist Party or the fucking Karl Marx party of craziness or whatever it is, dude. Like, I don't give a fuck, honestly. But at least be, legitimate about it. Like, don't be a lying asshole like the Cortez types and be like, oh, I'm a Democrat socialist. It's like, no, bitch, you're just a fucking socialist. You're a fucking idiot, moronic jackass who literally sucked fucking cock for fame and fortune is what it was, who was a shitty fucking bartender slash waitress, who did an audition for the Young Turks back in like 2017, 2018, because they were trying to find somebody in that district in New York to actually run, and they just happened to pick your dumbass. And that's how this bitch got into Congress, dude. Now making $174,000 a year. And again, when you look at, root causes and current effects and stuff like that, it's a great example more recently, actually, is you have this moron getting into office 4 years ago, and now you have all this other crazy shit happen since then with her and the rest of the moron squad, where it's basically these four, now it's more like 5 or 6 now, jackasses, because it was originally Cortez, and then it was Omar, Tlaib, and Presley were the 4 main ones. And then, of course, actually, I'm thinking about it, it's more than 6, actually. They had like a couple more people in there. I don't know if I really consider that Jayapol woman to be technically part of the squad. I think she's like squad adjacent is what it would be. Like, she's like basically an ally for them is what it is sometimes here and there. But I don't think she technically identifies as part of that is what it is. Whereas Cori Bush, who got in office back in 2020 and was a total fucking BLM terrorist, she 100% is part of that whole thing, dude. And so is, I'm trying to remember what that dude's name is, like Jameel Bozeman or something like that in New York as well. I believe is part of them as well. He's like this bald black dude. He's one of the Democrats out of New York City there or something, or that like Manhattan area or whatever it is there. So, but yeah, so you basically have like those 6 people making up like the current version of it. And like I said, Jayapol technically is like a 7th of them or whatever it is here and there, but she never like, I don't think she totally goes with them. She's more like mixed between like mainstream and like kind of far leftist kind of thing at that point. Because she basically just backs Pelosi, but then again, so does Cortez for that matter. And actually, it was interesting when you go back to even Omar for that matter. It was this week where she was like bitching and moaning about like, you don't tell me how to vote to fucking constituents in her district at a town hall. And it's like, they pretty much do, you dumb bitch, because they're going to vote you into fucking Congress. They are your bosses, not the other way around, you stupid hoe bag. And this exactly is the same problem that we have not only with Omar, but also with people like Kamisha Sawant over there in Washington State, who is a Seattle City Councilwoman, who was a direct figurehead of how the Chaz became a thing 2 years ago, and was never brought up on terrorism charges or anything else like that. Not only that, she actually cheated her way back into office during a recall, dude. Like, she basically did whatever she had to do to get back into office there. And, you know, they threw down some kind of a ballot box or something like that and then switched it out someplace along the line, dude, is what it was. So, and now she's back in office again, is what it is. And then there was like a run by pooping at her house the other day where somebody like threw, I don't know if it was human shit or dog shit at her house. I have no idea which. It would not surprise me either one, honestly, at this point, dude. But like, then she was bitching at the cops and stuff and being like, you need to do your job, even though I've totally defunded like 95% of your shit as a sitting city council woman along with the rest of the city council there. And they're like, no, we have actual rape cases that aren't being solved right now because of your fucking defunding bullshit, bitch. You can fuck off with your run by pooping crap. And again, that's again going back to the direct correlation of stuff, dude. You know, you look back at the whole 2020 riot season and stuff like that, where you had the whole defund the police movement and stuff like that, and now you got the causation correlation thing 2 years later here, and we're now seeing the beginning of the fallout of that, where you have all these leftist major cities, whether it be in LA, whether it be in New York, whether it be a Seattle or a Portland or anything else like that, where they're open air drug dens, dude. In most cases, they're open air homeless encampments now. And the cops can do nothing because you've had a bunch of dumbasses in office, whether it be city council people or mayors or whatever it is, dude, legalizing drugs in these fucking cities, dude, in these states and stuff like that. And it's like, this is why I believe truthfully, you will have balkanization happen in this country within the next 12 to 15 months, honestly. And I'm going to make this statement right now. If I am wrong about the timeline, I might be a little bit off time-wise, and I'll admit that right now. But I believe truthfully between now and the end of 2023, early 2024, before the presidential election happens, we could very well see balkanization happen in this country, dude. Because we are already, I believe, truthfully busting at the seams in this nation when it comes to things. And I think people are so far divided and just so far apart from each other that we can never sit down at a table and actually have a common ground fucking discussion anymore. And it's sad when you look at what's happening now in this nation with all this stuff. And it's even like the rest of the stuff. Like I said the other day with on the 2A cast with about Nan Whaley and stuff like that, dude. When you have her accusing current Governor Mike DeWine here in Ohio of being paid for by the gun lobby, which, by the way, I am the gun lobby. I've never given a dime to anybody's campaign because I don't have money to give to these campaigns. Even if I did have money to give to these campaigns, I sure as fuck wouldn't give it to these fucking jackasses. This is what it is, dude. Either one of them. So the entire point is she wants to bitch about gun lobbies and stuff like that. And it's like, yeah, pretty sure when you actually go back and look at every piece of legislation that was pushed through the General Assembly in the past couple of years now, whether it be stand your ground or whether it be constitutional carry and stuff like that, dude. And then when I talk about gun lobby stuff, what they're actually showing at these various hearings, when you have people being proponents of the legislation or opponents of the legislation, the people that actually show up to be in favor of it, dude, are people like Chris Dorr from Ohio Gunners, are people like the dude who does Concealed Carry Ohio, I believe is what it is called, or Ohioans for Concealed Carry, something like that. It's like OFCC or something like that, or OFC, something along those lines. And then it's like a few other like individuals is what it is. People like myself before I'd have my organization, stuff like that, that would go down there and talk about the things and be like, yeah, we're in favor of this because it would help, you know, actually deal with the criminality of the state right now. And it would allow for people to actually be able to be armed versus attackers is what it is. It would put us on the same playing field is what it is, which is the truth, actually. And then, of course, who's on the other side for the opponent side? It's all bought and paid for Moms Demand Action members in their commie little red shirts and shit like that literally say Moms Demand Action or Moms Demand Action Network or Every Town Survivor Network or some other bullshit like that, dude. And then they're sitting there and getting on the podium and actually lying to people's faces and being like, I'm a volunteer for this thing. It's like, you're not a volunteer if you're getting paid, lady. You're just a fucking paid shill for Michael Bloomberg in the state of Ohio is what it is. It's just like how Shannon Watts is Bloomberg's number 2 and she's being paid to fucking espouse his bullshit for him is what it is, dude. She's being paid to actually go out there and try to fuck people out of their constitutional rights to keep and bear arms in this country, dude. And that's what I'm saying. It's all about root causes and stuff like that and the correlation between them and stuff. And even going back to, you know, talking about like, you know, dating pools and stuff like that and like female dating and stuff like that, man. You know, I'm gonna say something right now. People don't maybe not know actually right now, dude. I will be 38 in January. I technically am still a virgin. I'm one of the people that's saving myself for marriage, and I'm hoping my future wife, does the same. Honestly, dude, and that's one of my big things right now. It's very hard for me to find a good woman out there who is still 100% intact and has never laid down with another man and stuff like that, dude. Now, granted, if I wanted to go get laid or whatever the case be, I could go to any bar across this fucking state right now, dude. And, last call for alcohol. Let's go home. Whatever the chick's name is, or whatever, dude. But it's like, yeah, I don't want to do that kind of stuff, dude. I'd much rather sit here and wait, and then go out and find somebody that's worth it. And the thing is, I'm not saying my future wife has to be 100% a virgin and stuff like that, dude. Like, I could care less, honestly. It'd be nice, added feature and stuff like that, because it used to be a thing back in the day. That was one of the big things back in the olden days, where you had, what should I say now? Yeah, where you had basically, it was the, a couple centuries back now, where it was essentially, the man would bring like this thing, and this thing, and the chick would basically bring like some kind of dowry from her, father, whatever it was, like a couple animals or some gold or something like that, maybe some land or something. And then it was also her virginity is what it was. And that's when they would know that she was clean back then. And that's where you would actually be able to have, sort of that deal where it's like, oh, she's an unsullied kind of deal is what it is, dude. And she's like, hasn't been with other dudes and stuff like that. And that's why you actually had a lot of, back in the day, like the Scarlet Letter stuff as well as what it was. I'm not saying we should implement that nowadays, but I mean, it would be one way to fucking sort of like deal with all the hoes out there, man. So anyway, or if nothing else, be like, if you had a bunch of chicks walking around with a giant A on their chest with like, or not chest, but like a giant A like placard around their neck or whatever it is, dude. And then like a little asterisk thing with how many kids they've aborted and stuff at this point. And then like, it's like, yeah, people wouldn't want to be with them is what it is anymore, dude. I don't think. I mean, I'm sure there is a low class of men that would want to be with them because they're all a bunch of beta male bitches is what it is, dude. But like, any guy that has any self-respect for himself wouldn't want to be with those kind of women, dude, is what it is. The haunted womb chicks and stuff like that. But yeah, the entire point though is that I'm not going to sit here and say that, I'm ever going to find a woman that is, a virgin, to marry. And I'm okay with that, honestly. Like, even if I was like a stepdad to some kid or whatever the case be with my future wife and stuff like that, I'd be fine with that too as well, man. Because I realized after everything happened with me in the past year here, and the fallout I had with some of these guys in 2A community stuff like that, when I like the, very much depression I had, back in April, May of this year, having some issues where I seriously considered taking my own life over some issues there. And, I'm not going to get into the whole thing about it. People that know about it. And that's all that matters at the end of the day. But yeah, there was a time where I was very, very much in self-harm, honestly, like pretty fucking close to that time, but dude, like razor was edging that shit. And I'm glad I didn't, honestly, because I realized when I came out of that depression and that funk is what it was, and got out of my own head finally, that the thing that I'm missing at almost 38 years old is the fact that I want to be a father. Whether that be a father to my own children, which would be awesome, or whether that be a father to some stepkids, or whether it be a father to some adopted kids, or whatever the case be. The whole point is I want to be a dad. Now, granted, that being said, do I want to be a dad to, another, like, not just another man's kids, but to multiple other men's kids that some woman has had with multiple baby daddies is what it is, dude. And that's the one thing I've realized when I'm going on these dating sites, whether it be OkCupid or Plenty of Fish or anything else like that, dude, is there is a lot of single mothers on these sites, and it seems like almost all of them locally, it's 2 baby daddies, 3 baby daddies, 3, 4 kids along the lines, dude, in those cases. And it's like, okay, what happened that things didn't work out between you and any of these kids' fathers? Because it would be one thing if it was like, okay, you have 3 kids and they're all the same father, whatever the case be. It's like, okay, maybe that guy was a piece of crap, whatever the case be. Hell, maybe he cheated on you for all the fuck I know. But the thing is, when you have, 3, 4 children with 3 or 4 different men, It's like, well, clearly a couple of them were the fact that you were probably cheating on the first guy with the second guy, or the second guy with the third guy, etc. And it's like, yeah, I don't need to be like number 5 or 6 here in this fucking line, dude. And that's my biggest thing right now. Is my thing is I feel like, because I'm gonna straight up say it, dude. I'm not the greatest looking man. I mean, I'm decent looking in the face, I think. But like, body wise, like I'm definitely overweight. I have, issues and stuff like that, dude. And I'm sure if I lost, another 100 or so pounds or so, maybe 150 pounds more, um, I would be a much more better looking dude and stuff like that. Now, granted, that's going to take a lot of effort on my part. And unfortunately, with a lot of my health issues currently, it's not, feasible to be able to lose that kind of weight, and especially not like very quickly is what it is. And so, it's not like I don't try to work out off and on and stuff like that, but it's just the motivating factors that I don't really have to do that with. Again, when you got a bum knee and a bunch of other shit that's fucking back issues and everything else like that, it's kind of like very hard to, keep the weight off. And, but yeah, like I would consider myself to be, I don't know, probably like a 3.5 or 4 right now. If I had to be serious about things, maybe a 4.5 at most. But yeah, if I could lose a couple 100 pounds or whatever the case be, I'd probably be like about a 6.5 to 7. But right now, like I said, like I have no, and that's the thing, I have no problem with dating, somebody that's like a 4 or 5 or whatever, dude. Um, or even like a 3 for that matter. It's just being able to find that person and being able to actually have to wade through all the bullshit to find them is what it is, dude. Because my thing is with everything, it's I don't want to have to sit here and go through, 1,000 different profiles of, 1,000 different women that are all like, oh, I'm so pro-abortion. Oh, I'm pro-abortion, 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 pro-abortion. And then it's finally like, oh, this one person over here is pro-life, but then they're like 20 years older than I am or something like that. And that's my thing right now. Like, I even look at my parents, honestly, as an example of this thing, dude. My father, when he and my mother first got in a relationship together, which honestly, what's interesting about those two is that they were actually, uh, it was, I believe, her friend was the woman in the relationship, and then it was the woman's husband was buddies with my father. My father was actually 14 years older than my mother was when they got together. If he was still alive today, he'd be almost 89 years old. My mother is in her 70s right now. So, anyway, um, but yeah, my thinking is like, I've always kind of grown up with that like sort of mindset in my head, I guess is what it is. And probably autistic mind is also a big issue on that one. And I've always thought about that myself. I'm like, okay, is my wife going to be around the same age as I am, or is she going to be younger than I am, or is she even going to be a little bit older than I am for that matter, dude? And it's kind of like one of those situations there. And, it was one thing when I was like, 20, 25 and looking at some chick who was like, mid to late 30s or whatever at the time, or whatever. But now in my late 30s myself, and I'm looking at chicks who would be in their 50s and stuff, I'm just like, yeah, probably not, is what it is. So now I'm looking at the other way, is what it is, and it's like, going by that 14-year age thing, it'd be like some chick was like 24 right now, dude. And I'm just like, what do I really have in common with 24-year-olds, dude? I mean, we both have voting rights, is what it is, but like, it's a whole thing, man. And my thinking of it all is like, it goes back to that sort of like root cause and correlation thing where it's like, when you start looking at, these generations now coming up and you look at all the indoctrination that's been pushed, and this is the big thing about me, I looked at it the other day, actually, what's crazy is, next year will be my 18th high school graduation, for the, or I should say for my, what do you call it now, reunion, my 18th high school reunion for my graduating class, which was in 2005. And I'm just like, fuck, do I feel old now, dude? And yeah, it's a situation there where I'm just like, I look at all these other people that are around me that graduated with me and stuff, and their kids are like 12 to 15 years old now. And I'm just like, what the fuck did I just do with the last 15 years of my life, basically? And Unfortunately, a lot of it was medical issues, is what it is. I'm not even gonna lie about it, dude. Like a lot of the shit back then was medical issues, and just basically trying to figure myself out back then. I didn't even go to college until I was like 25, and then even then I was like, if I thought more of it, I would have just been like, nah, I'm gonna go to trade school someplace. I would have been better off back then, honestly. But yeah, as it was, I meddled around quite a bit in my early 20s, and you know, hung out with the dudes and played a lot of MTG and stuff like that. I probably still would actually if the card shop was still open right now, but it's not. So, um, but yeah, it's kind of hard to meet some ladies when you're mostly hanging out with dudes all the time, is what it is. So, but anyway, it is what it is, man. But my thing is, even looking at what I've seen in the last, 10 years or so of my life, even right now, since I was like 28 and stuff, and I mean, there was a time where I used to watch some of the MGTOW movement stuff and stuff like that, and some of those guys. And the one thing I have realized with a lot of those dudes is, just like myself, they've been fucked over in the past, dude. Because I don't really like to talk about it, but there was a girl in high school. She fucked me hard, man, in the head. She basically had me sort of wrapped around her finger, and she knew she was never gonna date me. She knew she was never gonna do anything with me, is what it is. And she just like played it off as if she was gonna do stuff. But she friend zoned me very hard to begin with, and then she just didn't even, let it be known until like 2 years later. And that fucked me up for like another 5 years after that, is what it was. To where it's like, when you have your heart broken so hard and you're trying to pick up the pieces of it, it's very hard to look outside of that and, realize like, oh, it wasn't you at all. It was that fucking cunt being a fucking cunt, is what it was. So, and I realize that now, obviously, and she had her karmatic justice, honestly, dude, because she ended up being a giant drug addict and multi-time felon and went to prison for a while and stuff like that. And thankfully, she cleaned herself up now, but it's a whole thing, man. But yeah, I don't know. She was a trip though, for sure. And unfortunately, I think her sort of fucking with me back then, it led to a lot of things where I could have potentially had a few relationships in high school with other women. And I never got to go down that road because I was so hung up on her ass, is what it was. Not realizing that I was never going to stand a chance with her, is what it is. And realizing that she was technically like way out of my league, or not really way out of my league, but like she was somewhat out of my league. But yet she herself was basically like one of these people that was just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do anything with this person, just fuck them or whatever. Oh, I know I can do some shit for them or whatever. I know I can get them to do stuff for me, is what it is, dude. And there were a couple things I did, but not a whole lot though. And then she was just she was just fucked up entirely, dude, is what it was. She was on drugs back then even, and it had the whole thing to do with her family, is what it was. So I actually blame my brother for that one quite a bit, because he could have straight up told me about some crazy shit that happened between them. To begin with, he was at her house hanging out with her sister one time, and had he let me know that to begin with and been like, yeah, dude, she doesn't really want you, she just wants to be friends with you, is what it is, and like strip told me that to my face when I was like 15 years old, I would have never wasted the fucking time with this bitch. And yet, because my brother wanted to be an asshole and not fucking tell me that shit, it fucked me up, dude. Because it put me down that road, is what it does. And yeah, it definitely fucked me up though. And it sort of soured my relationship for quite some years, honestly, with even wanting to be with or around women, honestly. And it did basically fuck my head over, is what it is, dude. And again, it goes back to that whole root cause correlation thing right now, where it's like that was the root cause of why there's a lot of time in my 20s that I didn't even date anybody at all, dude. And I've had very few relationships in my life at all because of that, dude. And my thinking is, it's like, I feel like it might be just time to get back with God and maybe just go someplace and do, I don't know, some Bible study or something like that, and maybe see if there's, maybe that leads to something. Maybe it leads to me finding my true purpose on this earth, and maybe a wife at that time as well. But who knows? But yeah, I feel like in general, like there is definitely, going back over the last, 6 decades or so in this country, there has definitely been a correlated push between the 60s, the 70s, 80s, especially into the 90s, 2000s, to basically make it for like single motherhood is awesome. Big daddy government can always have your back as your baby daddy kind of thing. To, oh, it's perfectly fine for you to go out there and be a hoe, more or less, men or women for that matter, and, fuck everything that moves basically without kind of consequences or, fear of STDs or anything else like that. And then, again, it goes back to that even bigger lie, which is, the whole thing of women having their, cake and eating it too, having that family and that career is what it is. And they keep pushing that as like, oh yeah, you can go to college and have this career and have this family, everything else like that. It's like, yeah, except you can't do it all at once, dude. You have to have the kids young enough to where you're still fertile enough to be able to have children as a female, because eventually you're not going to be able to bear kids anymore. Your eggs are going to dry up eventually, and it's going to be, you just going through menopause and stuff like that. And then there's another situation of, by the time you actually, want to have kids later on in life, then you're going to have very much difficulty doing that because you're not going to have a whole lot of eggs left. If you're going to do like 30, 35, 40, 50, whatever years old at that point, dude. And it's either you would have to, if you're a female, you have to freeze eggs by that point and maybe have a kid that way or have kids that way, or go through IVF and stuff like that, which even a lot of girls I went to high school with that are like, some of them are even younger than I am right now. They're in their 20s or early 30s is what it is. They're even having problems having kids now. And it goes back to the correlation shit within our society, which is all the environmental type of stuff, dude, whether it be the forever chemicals and the water supplies and stuff like that, or whether it be, runoffs from farming areas, or whether it be runoff from landfills in the nearest city and stuff like that that's running into the drinking water and everything else like that. And yeah, because I've even talked to some of these girls, because a lot of them had various breast cancers since then, and this is back when I had my colon cancer about 6-7 years ago, is that it would have been, I'm trying to think, it would have been January 2016 was when I was first diagnosed with colon cancer, and then it was May of 2016 was when I got the colon cancer surgery. Or no, yeah, that's right. I was thinking, it was good. It's been 5 years or 6 years? No, it's been 6 years. Yeah, it was 2016. And then, of course, had that all taken care of and had months long recovery from that and stuff. I still have a surgical scar on my stomach because of that reasoning. And I was talking to, actually, it was funny, I was talking to one of my cousin's wives, who she is a nurse, and she's like, "Oh, let me see your surgical scar." And then she looked at it, and she's like, "Oh, that's good work, man. Like, that doctor did really good work." Because I guess she's seen some real jacked up shit before, and like, you can still see the scar, and it's like a little weird indent in my stomach area where it happened. But like, yeah, other than that, like, you can't really tell. And if people didn't know about it, I could basically lie and be like, "Oh yeah, I got knifed in some bar fight or something like that," and make it like a real cool story. It's like, no, I just had colon cancer. But yeah, at that time, a lot of my female friends from my graduating class had gotten grouped together, and they were discussing some stuff about it. And it was a lot of them had developed like breast and other cancers. And there's a few kids that were the graduating class above mine, so it would have been 2004 graduating class, that they've had several of the guys in that class have actually died from brain cancers that were like super rare brain cancers. One of the guys that was in my graduating class actually passed away, I believe it was last year, from some kind of crazy brain cancer. And it all goes back to the watersheds and stuff like that in this town that I live in, because they had it was back in 2019, or no, 2018, that they had Erin Brockovich come into the town because they paid her a bunch of money to come in here and do like an investigation and stuff. And they were testing like watersheds and people's like drinking water from a couple taps and stuff like that. All of them tested positive for chromium 6. And if you look into what chromium 6 does, if you breathe it in, it'll give you a lung cancer. So if you're drinking it, it's obviously going to give you other kind of cancers. And again, that goes back to the root cause / correlation stuff. And yeah, it's just fucked up, dude. Now, granted, I've had a couple doctors and nurse practitioners and stuff like that tell me that my specific colon cancer was caused by some big pharma drugs I was on at the time for some other stuff I had health-wise back in my early, teen years and stuff like that. I'm not going to get into that. I've talked about it before on this channel. But it goes back to health issues I've had about past 20 years or so is what it is, dude. And the big thing there is when you have and actually going back to even my early 20s as well, dude, when I had the fallout from that, because of course I had a full body peeling during that whole thing, and ended up developing psoriasis all over my body for quite a bit of time until I was on these medications I'm on now, is what it is. There was a lot of psoriasis on my arms and my neck and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of women that are going to look at you like you're a fucking leper. And that's a lot of reasons why I didn't have a lot of relationships in my 20s, honestly, was because of that whole thing. So yeah, it kind of sucks, dude. But thankfully that's healed up now. At least for now it is anyway, with the meds that I'm on. But the entire point is, though, is that when they looked into a lot of the stuff with the chromium 6 stuff and whatnot, and they're just like, yeah, it's a reason why all these chicks have breast cancers. And then, of course, there's a lot of these girls that, that are in their, early to mid 30s now that have had so many health issues. And I forget what the actual medical terminology for it is, but basically what it is it's a cyst on your ovaries. I forget, it's like cystule something or other. I forget what the actual term is for it, but basically that's what it correlates to, is like a cyst on the ovary is what it is. And that's why a lot of these females from my graduating class and other classes above mine and below mine are having so much trouble having kids now, and why so many of them had to have IVF treatments actually now. There was one, she was, when I had my colonoscopy done several years back, she was actually one of the nurses in the place then, and she recognized my name, and she's like, oh, hey, how's it going? I'm like, who are you again? And she's like, oh, she was like, yeah, my brother went to high school with you and stuff like that in your graduating class, and she told me her last name, and I was like, oh, okay. And yeah, she ended up having a miracle baby recently. I believe they call it a rainbow child, which is where you have um, a miscarriage and then you end up having a kid after that or whatever it is. And yeah, she had a few miscarriages, what it was, and then she ended up finally having a bunch of IVF treatments and stuff like that. And she finally is having a kid now. And I believe she actually recently had that child now. And I think I remember seeing a picture of that kid here in the last couple of weeks, and it was a cute baby. Um, but yeah, it's a sad situation, dude, where you have these people that are getting fucked over like that because of just, environment shit like that. And then you have these people that are coming over through a border system and stuff like that are having no problem getting pregnant. And it's like, yeah, because they haven't been exposed to the same chemicals that American citizens have been for decades now, dude. And again, root cause correlation stuff, dude. It's like there's a reason why you have less than, it's like 1.3%, 1.3 children or whatever for every couple now in the country of America. And it's like, there's a reason for that, dude. When we don't have replacement numbers yet, is because of the fact that, again, it goes back to environmental shit in some cases. In other cases, it's basically people being told, oh, you can basically fuck around as much as you want for as long as you want. And then, some chick has had a cop carousel going on for fucking 15 years of her life between the age of 20 and 35, hits that wall at 35, and then is like, okay, I'm jumping off the cock carousel and I'm going to jump on this random dude's dick or whatever that I want to be my baby daddy now is what it is. And I already have like 2 kids already. Okay, stepdaddy, like get to it. And the guy's like, nah, fuck that, dude. I don't want your used up ass over here. And that's what it is, dude. And it's why you're seeing a lot of guys leave America entirely and go international. I'm not saying I would do that. I mean, I've always, like, what's funny is actually I was talking to my mom about the other day, and we were making jokes and stuff because I said, like, back when I was like 16, 17, I was like, oh yeah, I'm totally going to go for some kind of mail order bride in like 5 years or something like that down the road. And, like, we just laughed back then, but like, honestly, the way it's going now, dude, it might go that way actually at some point. I'm still debating where I want to go, though, is what it is, because again, I'd have to make sure that, like, there'd have to be like certain qualifications, obviously, after everything happened in 2020 and stuff like that, man. And I don't know. I've always been into Asian chicks personally. So probably Japan would be one of the top ones. Korea would be another one for places to look, like South Korea probably, or even like the Philippines maybe. And then I've heard good things about like places like Croatia and like other different countries like that for chicks that are into like traditional values and things like that. I could always go to Poland too, probably, and find me a wife now. I'm sure there's a lot of widows there now after the whole Ukraine Russia thing as well on that one. So I'm joking, obviously. I'm not gonna go that route. That's just me being fucked up at this point. Uh yeah, I've heard bad things about the Thailand, man. So trying to see if I can make these comments any bigger, actually. I don't know how I can do that, actually, now I'm looking at it. Because that seemed really small. It seems like it should be bigger than that. Hang on, let me try some stuff. See if that makes it any bigger. Nope, still pretty small. I don't know. I'll figure it out later. It only seems to be with this account because I created this account the most recent, and the other ones are fine. So I don't know what the fucking setting is on there. I have to change up then. But yeah, I've heard weird things about Thailand and stuff like that, and it's just I'm not down for that, man. Also, Brazil seems to be a big one for the woman might not be a woman kind of thing is what it is, dude. So anyway, I mean, hey, if you want to live your life like that, whatever, dude. I prefer to have a lady that actually has a uterus, is what it is, man. So that can bear my children. So anyway, but yeah, like I said though, with my whole thing, it's like and that's the one reason why I kind of give up on online dating now as well as what it is because it ain't really worth it, man. And that's the problem with people that have been out of the dating pool for 5, 10, 15 years, whatever more, is that they want to sit there and act like they know what's going on currently when they don't have any idea really, unless they've actually gone to these sites and checked these things out themselves, is what it is, dude. And then they, sort of see the single guys out here and be like, oh, I totally understand what you're saying now, dude. Like, yeah, you guys can go out there and, find a woman or whatever the case be, but it's going to be, do you really want to have that be a future missus for you, is what it is, dude. And in my case, like I said earlier, going to OkCupid, there are, plenty of fish or any of these dating sites like that, man, that are kind of like, they should be free, but they're not really free anymore, is what it is. And the nice thing about OkCupid, actually, since I stopped going to it and then went back to it a little bit ago, a few months back now, is they changed their thing on there where sometimes you couldn't tell exactly what the political thing of the person was or whatever. But now that they allowed a thing where it's like, I am pro-choice on their fucking profiles and stuff like that, I'm just like, okay, so you're cool with killing kids in the womb. Later, 10, 12, 14 down. 15th one, okay, this chick is decent looking. Actually, there was one that I actually had on a video before on this channel where this chick kind of looked like Maggie, actually, from The Walking Dead, like Lauren Cohan. And she was, I think, like a year or two younger than I was. And I was like, yeah, maybe. I don't know if I ever contacted her or not. I think maybe I did. She just never got back to me is what it was. But yeah, she was pretty cute. Like she was definitely potential wife material because she ended up, clicking off some of the boxes on her profile and stuff like that, where it seemed like she was like more traditional and stuff like that, more, sort of conservative and stuff like that, and like somewhat constitutionalist and things like that. Actually, there was one I was on, I had created a Tinder profile beginning of the year, and I was clicking through stuff, and I forget which way I was supposed to swipe at the time, and I ended up swiping off this one chick that I was like, no, come back, because she was totally fucking 2A, and she was a hot piece of ass, dude. Well, I'm not saying, when I say hot piece of ass, I mean like legitimately within my range of like, hey, like she's not like a 10 or 12 or whatever weight on my league and stuff. She's like maybe a 5 or a 6 at the time. And my thinking was, it's like, yeah, I totally would like to, contact her or whatever. And it's like, no, I swiped the wrong way. Fuck, come back. So I never did get her to come back then. Because again, if you want to do that kind of shit, you got to pay money to those sites. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm poor. I'm not doing that crap, dude. So fuck off. So anyway. There. How do I wrench people? Hang on. I will wrench you. Let me jump to the other side here for a sec, because I'm not sure I can do it from this side or not. But yeah, it's a whole situation there of just fuckery and everything else like that. Alright. Trying to get my shit to connect here is what the problem is. But yeah, like I was saying earlier, the real issue becomes when it comes to dating and things like that, is it's like, I think online dating at this point is kind of a joke. Like there's no way that that's ever going to work out for anybody. Well, I mean, it could work out for some people, honestly, but like I don't think I'm one of them, is what it is. Versus other people who, hang on, gotta make sure I'm not backfeeding here. But yeah, I think it can work out for other people. I mean, it kind of has worked out for my brother in some cases because he met his wife on one of those dating sites. But pretty sure that was a hammer fight, man. Like there's a difference between a wrench and a hammer. I think we talked about that, didn't we? I thought we did with crazy ass motherfucker getting hammer timed or whatever it was. Hang on, make sure I can do this now. How the fuck do I wrench people? All right, there we go. Add moderator. All right, you should be wrenched now. So I think, pretty sure. Yep, you got wrenched now. All right, cool. So anyway, but yeah, like I said, the problem with any of that stuff is it's like, you got the root cause and the correlation and stuff like that. And when you have, and honestly, when you bring it, when, there's a lot of people I've seen, even from any of these type of guys that'll talk about this. When you look at the third wave feminist aspect of things right now, dude, and I think that's a big indoctrinator thing right now. And that's one of the bigger ones that's come into place here in about the last 25 to 30 years now, is you had originally, you can go back to the suffragette movement and stuff like that of the 1900s and things. And then you can go back to the, the fact that they got voting rights, women got voting rights in 1919 and stuff like that. Of course, the first guy that they voted in was basically like a hardcore Democrat douchebag is what it was in 1920. And then from there, you basically have had different things happening over and over again. And then you had basically those original suffragette chicks in the 1920s and stuff like that were basically first wave feminists. Then you had a few decades of that stuff going on. It was around the 60s/70s is when second wave feminism took over, and that was basically the broadburning generation of chicks. And then it was basically their daughters, which would have been the chicks of my generation in the 90s, that became like these hardcore third wave feminist types and stuff like that. Now, granted, you can even go back to the second wave feminists, basically kind of being almost third wave feminists as well, who were the old hippie chicks of like the 70s or whatever, who were just fucking nuts is what it is, dude. And they were actually, what's interesting is you look at those kind of women and stuff like that, a lot of them actually had ties to the original Weather Underground, which was the prelude and predecessor to Antifa nowadays. And again, going back to root cause stuff, dude, you got, terrorism in the 60s, 70s, Weather Underground being the, basically mother hens, if you will, of the current generation of Antifa types is what it is, dude, and BLM, etc. there. And so, yeah, when you got the, root cause and correlation stuff there, that's basically where all that shit comes from. And the big problem there was it was back sometime in that time period, like late 50s, early 60s, is when you had, I believe it was a single dean at some college where you had some woman basically pestering him that was like some professor chick or whatever there, or had gotten like some kind of professoring doctorate or whatever it was, and was like, hey, I want to teach a class. And he's like, okay, fine, you can teach what you want to teach there. Go ahead. And that's basically where a lot of women and gender studies courses came from, was that original one. And then, of course, it branched out from there. And what is interesting when you look at a lot of these professor women from the women and gender studies courses is they are hardcore lesbians, dude. And the reason that they indoctrinate a lot of these good-looking chicks into that shit is they want to fuck them, legitimately. They want to have sex with these really good-looking females that are not gay, and they want to turn them gay. And it's why you have the chicks that tend to go down that road become like these super man haters and stuff like that, dude. And these also tend to be the same ones now that'll go for the other various bullshit, like the CRT garbage and stuff like that, and then be like, oh, we're not teaching critical race theory in your school systems. They don't actually call it that. It's something else now is what it is, but it's essentially the same shit as what it is, dude. And they'll be the ones that will go to those SJW degrees and stuff like that, whether it be women and gender studies or indoctrination into some other stupid bullshit or whatever it is, dude. And then they get out of these school systems, these colleges, with a teaching certificate, a teaching degree, whatever it is, and then go into your schools and teach your kids and indoctrinate your kids to become future activists is what it is. And again, it goes back to those root cause correlation things, dude, because so much of that shit can be tied back to third wave feminism and stuff like that. And where does feminism tie back into it? Ties back into Marxism. It is the bastard daughter of Marxist. ideology, and Karl Marx himself is what it is. It's just like the same thing with communism and socialism. They all tie back to Karl Marx and Marxism, dude. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Karl Marx would be fucking proud, dude, right now. Like, the fact that his shit has indoctrinated everybody in not only this country, but like other countries for that matter, dude. And, you know, basically had these, you know, generation after generation of just crazies coming out of the woodwork is what it is, dude. And that's why I fear people going to college anymore, dude, because it's like a lot of them just come out as college commies, dude. And that's why I call them that. I mean, hell, you look at the one kid who he was one of these kids for Students Demand Action, which is the student version of Moms Demand Action here, the Bloomberg groups. He actually went down to our state house. This kid was from Florida, claimed to be a survivor of Parkland, which, by the way, there's only about 5,000 of those out there. You know, only a couple dozen people actually got killed at that school because it was so fucking gigantic. It was basically a college, the size of it, essentially, was their grounds there. And you had like so many different buildings. It's like, yeah, pretty sure like that gunman couldn't just go through like 20 different buildings, dude. He couldn't take out everybody. It's like a bunch of you were going to survive it as anyways, what it is. You just have to be one of the ones that did. And so, yeah, the sad part is like the ones that actually died at that school, dude, were the ones who should have lived for the most part, because there were several of them that died saving other people. Like, I know there was that one kid that basically tried to bar the door with his body and then, yeah, basically got capped through the fucking doors, what it was. It's just terrible. And then the coach obviously tried to save everybody, and because he wasn't armed, he couldn't do shit. So, but anyway, but yeah, this, I forget what the kid's name is now. I want to say it's like Steven something, but I could be wrong about that one. I feel like there's some kind of an S in it somewhere. But basically, he's a douchebag, and then some dude, this Students Demand Action kid. But yeah, he's just such a fucking clown ass motherfucker, dude. And he's like, I'm a student at Ohio State University, and I just came down here to talk about why you guys shouldn't pass constitutional carry. And he did that back in like January, February this year when they were doing the various hearings and the committees and stuff like that. And it's just like, that's what it was. Mitch. That's what the kid's name is. Mitch something or other. Fuck, what's that kid's last name now? I remember the first name. It was Mitch. Yeah, let me look up Students Demand Action. Let's real quick now. Students Demand Action, Mitch, Florida. And, trying to see if that'll bring it up or not. Yeah, Mitchell Pinsky. That's who that fucker is right there, dude. Fucking knew I knew that kid. Let's see if I can actually... Let's see if this is actually a picture of this douchebag. This is actually from the Bloomberg website here. Okay, here we go. Perfect. Let's go ahead and do a screen share of this little ass wipe, dude. And you guys can understand why I fucking hate this dude with a passion, dude. Yeah, this is that little Mitch asshole right here in the middle with the fucking mic in his hand, dude. Like, what a little fucking wiener, man, for real. Like, that kid is such a fucking cunt, dude. Like, you want to talk about beta males of society, dude? This little fucking 24, 25-year-old punk ass is the Ohio version of David Hogg, dude. Like, he hates our fucking gun rights. He hates our fucking state. And it's like, dude, you're not even from here. You came here to go to fucking college. You're from Florida. Take your bitch ass back to Florida, and then tell your parents to take their bitch asses back to New York, where you're probably originally from, is what it is. Like, no one likes you, man. No one likes you, Mitchell. So, yeah, I really do not like that kid, man. Like, I would seriously curse his ass out to his face at that point, dude. Oh, Jesus Christ. I just went down this page just to see what it says here. Mitchell Pinsky, pronouns, he, him, his. Good God, man. Good Lord. How long ago was this up here, though? Trying to even see if they had a date on this. Okay, there we go, 2021. There it says he's only 21. I thought he was older than that, though. Probably not, though. Yeah, Boca Raton, Florida, a.k.a. the richest, whitest neighborhood in the fucking state is what it is, dude. Why am I not surprised by that, dude? So he's literally a rich little punk ass is what it is, man. So, anyway. But yeah, like I said, dude, it's those kind of fucking douchebags that we're fighting against here in Ohio when it comes to 2A and stuff like that, man. That's why I got in this fight. tell that kid to go fuck himself. Anyway, but yeah, like I said though, for me personally, like there's a reason why at this point in history I've kind of taken myself out of the dating pool a little bit because it's not really worth it, you know? Like, yeah, I could go find a woman, I could go find several women probably, but it's like, is it gonna be quality? Or is it just gonna be a bunch of baggage and stuff like that? Am I gonna put myself in a situation where it's like, oh yeah, I can get married or whatever, but it's like, am I gonna want to stay with that chick? Is what it is, dude. In a lot of cases, the answer is no, unfortunately, because a lot of them aren't really worth staying with, dude. Is what it is, or even having relationships with is what it ends up being. That's why I'm honestly like, and I'm kind of like, I don't like to talk about this publicly because it is kind of like a secret thing I've been thinking about lately. But it's like, I'll go ahead and say it publicly at this point, though, man. Secretly, I've kind of been waiting for something to happen in this country, dude. Whether it be like balkanization or whatever, dude, because I feel like my chances are going to be way better off after the fact for a little bit of time. Where it's like, okay, cool, grid's gone down. And then I end up meeting like some really hot chick or whatever after grid down or whatever, dude, and ends up being my baby mama for a little bit of time or something like that. So, just my luck, that's how it would happen too, honestly. And then I'd die like 2 or 3 years later or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, meet my perfect lady or whatever, and then end up dying like random fucking attack or something like 2 years on or something. So I don't know. It's just interesting to think about though. And like I said though, I don't really think that's gonna end up happening, honestly, dude. Where it would be something like that. I'm not gonna act like, obviously if I'm trying to survive in a fucking grid down scenario, I'm not gonna sit there and actually be looking for some hot girl or whatever, dude, because Jesus Christ, you want to talk about the modern day honeypot at that point, dude. If you ever played Red Dead Redemption, dude, that game showed the exact thing that used to happen in the Old West a lot, dude, which is basically you'd be out there on the trails or whatever, and you hear some woman being like, help me, help me. They've killed everybody on the wagon. And then there's basically like 4 guys hiding behind the fucking wagon, ready to come out and jump your ass and try to kill you for your horse and everything else like that. Yeah, it'd be some shit like that, dude. Where it'd be like, oh no, I'm totally alone. I'm just a damsel in distress. It's like, no, you're not. Or even worse, it would be the opposite of that, where it's the fucking what was that one episode? It wasn't the first episode of Black Summer, but it was like I think 3 or 4 in or something like that from the first season. And it was the dude driving the van through like some alleyway, and some like chick and her dude coming running up or whatever, and is like, help us, help us. And then the chick's like, please, I'll suck your dick. Because you know damn well that's gonna happen a lot in fucking grid down shit, dude, where it's like some chick's like, oh, I don't even like this dude over here or whatever, dude. Like, I'll blow you for a fucking ham sandwich, basically, or probably not even a ham sandwich, it'd probably be like a fucking piece of cheese for that matter at that point, dude. I mean, hell, if you got a chick hungry enough, man, they'll do what needs to be done, man. That's why prostitution is the oldest form of job in the book right now, man. Has been forever is what it is. The oldest profession out there. So I feel like, truthfully, in a grid down scenario, there would be a lot of saloons coming back, dude, and there would be a lot of dudes running prostitution fucking saloons is what it would be, man. Having some hardcore madam chick or whatever there is like, you don't touch the girls touch you. Kind of thing or whatever. And shit like that or whatever. Then you got your little barkeep underneath the fucking underneath the saloon. Or not underneath the saloon, underneath the bar itself there. One of those little barkeep Heritage Rough Rider kind of guns. That'd be funny. I could totally see somebody have one of those too underneath one of those kind of deals, dude. Being like, you keep your hands off the girl, mister. So, anyway. Honestly, in those kind of scenarios, I'd probably rather have the 20-something-year-old chick that would be serving drinks, honestly, because she's going to be the one that's less used up. So, anyway, it is what it is, man. But, yeah, the way I feel about it right now is I feel like there's definitely some women to be had out there. Book of Eli, chick asking. Yeah, exactly. And then you got the dudes that are trying to eat his ass. Yeah, I think there'd be a lot of that going on there, dude. And what's interesting is we noticed that woman in that movie actually. So obviously, spoiler alert: Book of Eli's been out for like what is it, 20 years almost now. Um, so he kills the guys that she's with at the time, which are like 5 different dudes or whatever. And the fact he's able to pull that off by himself is fucking amazing. Although it's Hollywood, so what do you expect? The main character's not going to die in this movie, dude. Is what it is. Like again, plot protection, convenience. I guess is what I call in that one best. But yeah, it's a decent fight though. And then yeah, it's later on. Then she ends up finding 2 other dudes then to be like her new protectors and stuff like that. And she's definitely whoring herself out to all those guys to maintain being protected and stuff like that, dude. And that's the problem as well, dude. Is you're gonna have some semi decent females like that survive the grid down and stuff like that, dude. Where they're gonna do what needs to be done to keep themselves alive, and to keep themselves alive, a lot of the times will be fucking and sucking any dick that's part of a gang. Essentially, is what it is of dudes. And the thing with that is, she, for the most part, in most of those cases, that female will never learn any skill set from any of those dudes, dude, because she doesn't care to. She's like, no, I'm protected. There's 4 or 5 of these guys. They're perfectly fine. They can take out anybody, whatever the kind of thing, dude. Until they die, is what it is. And then she's fucked. And that's why I talk about even Rosita from Walking Dead a lot of times, dude, because there was one episode in one of the seasons of that show where it was, I want to say 7, maybe 8, somewhere in there. She was talking to Sasha about something, and she was disgusted because they were like trying to hotwire a car or something like that. And Rosita's like, oh yeah, I learned this from this dude and learned this from this dude. And she's like, and then Sasha's like, so why'd you stay with Abrahams for so long and stuff like that? And she was like, oh, because I finally found someone that was like my equal, basically, is what it is. And she admitted straight up, like, she was a whore to begin with, dude. And that's honestly why I would love to sort of see, like, Before the Dead kind of thing is what it is, dude. And see some of those characters, like, right at the onset of the apocalypse and shit, dude. Because it would show, like, just how far their character arc had come at that point then. Because some of them would have had to do shit like that to survive. Or it would be a situation where it's like, oh, you know, you might have to kill somebody for a can of beans or whatever, dude. Kind of like that one flashback of Abraham and his original family, where he's literally has a can of beans in his hand and is beating the guy to death with his fucking fist. And using the can of beans as essentially a pair of brass knuckles. So, yeah, that's some crazy shit, man, for sure. I forget what season that was in, but it was whenever he met Eugene then. This isn't going to be a Walking Dead chat, just so we're clear on that one. I'm just bringing that up as a correlation kind of thing as well. But yeah, I feel like they're like, that's because best, you know, example that I can think of right now offhand. But yeah, I think there'd be a lot of females like that that would survive, that would be either moderately good looking or very attractive, just because of the fact that they're willing to do what needs to be done to survive, which would include whoring themselves. And unfortunately, that would be a lot of current thoughts in our current society right now, dude. These chicks that make money doing OnlyFans stuff, or, you know, Twitch shit or whatever it is, like all these Twitch streamers and stuff like that are just a bunch of hoe bags. And yeah, they would be a lot of the ones that would survive, because there would be some fucking, you know, cuck ass dudes out there that would be like, no, I'll protect you. You just need to fuck me, is what it is. And then they basically, you know, it's sort of like how you see the board looking like a porn star's face sometimes, where it's just like, okay, this guy's almost done now, kind of thing. Or actually, it's a lot of movies. Even I was watching, I forget what the show was now. It's one of these Apple TV shows that came out recently. It's got the dude that played Jax in Sons of Anarchy in it, and it's basically this chick that's like whoring in India, and you just see like this bored ass look on her face of like, okay, is this guy gonna blow his load yet or not, kind of thing. And I feel like it'd be some shit like that, honestly, dude, where it's um that kind of situation. Then it's, I forget what that show is called. It's like Syntherian or something like that, or Syntherium, something like that. It's a good show though. I've watched I think 3 episodes of that right now, and it's really decent, man. I was surprised by how good it was going to be. The only reason I actually watched it is because of that character that played in the Sons of Anarchy show, because I noticed it was his face in the one thing for it, and I was like, oh, this should be interesting. Charlie Hunnam is who I'm thinking of right now, and yeah, he I'm not gonna give any spoilers for it, but yeah, it's definitely worth a watch though for sure, man. And of course, there's other places to watch that aren't Apple TV, so there is that. Because I'm not paying for Apple TV, just so we're clear on that one. So, and that's all I'll say about that, honestly. Um, but yeah, for the most part, though, I thought it was very interesting when you look at, sort of the root causes and correlation of stuff. Like, actually, we can go back and look at the root cause of why Paul Pelosi has a skull fracture right now. Because he was literally fucking gay men, is what it was, dude. He he had a male prostitute that was apparently some hippie commune dude that he let into his home, and then got into a hammer fight with the guy, and the guy fucking dinged him in the head a few times. Is what it was, dude. We don't know why that happened. Maybe the dude was high. Maybe the guy fucking wasn't getting paid. Maybe he wanted some more money. Maybe he wanted fucking stock tips from Nancy or whatever it was, dude, to get a bunch of money. Is what it was, dude. And they weren't giving it to him is what it was, and they fucking flipped out. What it ended up being, man. Who the hell knows? I think only Paul and that dude will know, honestly, dude. So, anyway, but yeah, I'm not surprised in the least to see that being a lavender marriage of any kind, dude. Because I've thought for a while, like even when I saw Paul Pelosi getting the DUI earlier this year, I'm like, that dude looks like he's kind of gay. And to hear that was the case, honestly, is like, yeah, I'm not surprised in the least that was like motherfucker on the down low until now or whatever, dude. And then, of course, you got all these leftist media sites trying to portray it as, oh, some right winger attacked Paul Pelosi. It's like, no, dude, this guy was a leftist fucking nut job who was his gay lover slash fucking gigolo, is what it was, dude. And who knows who was fucking who at that point? Either Paul was fucking this guy or that guy was fucking Paul. I think it's probably that guy fucking Paul, honestly, dude, at that point. Pulling the old Peter, Paul, and Mary kind of deal is what it is, dude. Except in this case, it would be Paul, Nancy, and whatever the fuck that dude's name was. I can't remember offhand. God, does he even have it here? I was trying to look up Breitbart stuff right now. Actually, this is an interesting story. We're going to talk about this right now. If we can pop it up here. So, yeah, I'll just pop up the actual main site here for the actual thing that it says here for it. So, yeah, it was Paul Pelosi attacker lived in Berkeley hippie commune, ex-lover to, quote, notorious pro-nudist activist, lived in bus donned with left-wing slogans, ain't no sunshine until capitalism's gone, neighbor, they are all about the Black Lives Matter movement and gay pride. That guy looks like a fucking nut, too. The balding-looking motherfucker right here. The crazy-ass looking beard. But yeah, as I said here, it said... okay, it was David. Okay, so it was... So in this case, instead of being Peter, Paul, and Mary, it was Paul, David, and Nancy. So David DePepe, the man accused of attacking Paul Pelosi with a hammer, lived inside a school bus parked outside his former lover's home in the weeks leading up to the attack, according to his neighbors. Said DePepe's neighbors said he slept back and forth between a broken down camper van and a school bus parked outside pro-nudist activist Gypsy Trom's house in Berkeley. Said according to DePepe's neighbors, Margarita and Julio Gonzalez, he used to live inside the home with that gypsy person and her family before staying off and on in the buses parked outside. Let's see. It said DePepe, who shares 2 children with that woman, was in a romantic relationship with the pro-nudist activist before she married someone else. Said he served as best man at her wedding. Jesus Christ. Oh, it was a nude wedding on top of that, which ultimately led to her arrest for being naked in public at the time. Jesus. Oh man, it gets so much better after that. This is according to DePepe's neighbor Ryan Lacoste. There was a huge fight at their people's compound one day after her wedding. So the Coste said he wasn't surprised at all after hearing that DePepe was the man accused of breaking into Pelosi's residence and attacking Paul Pelosi, except he didn't break in, he was let in and then acted like he was fucking not let in because he smacked out the inside glass is what it was, the outside from the inside. Let's see, he said, quote, I wasn't surprised because another crazy story is coming from someone in that house. Said they are always toxic and always up to something. They are always on the news and trying to be activists. They always want to be in the spotlight. Said a close look at that woman's residence, the Egyptian woman's residence, and the buses that DePepe reportedly slept in revealed an affiliation for left-leaning political causes, which stands in contrast with the attempts to link him as a mega extremist. Yeah, of course, dude. It said a closer look at the van parked in the woman's driveway shows more signs of support for left-leaning political causes. And it's various shit here. That was just talking about like leftist shit there. So another sticker on the van read, "Ain't no sunshine until capitalism's gone." Another sticker had a sarcastic definition. Sarcastic dictionary entry with the word liberal, which defined it as one who is generous, one who favors greater freedom in political or religious matters, one free from prejudice or narrow thinking. Jesus fucking Christ. So the sticker said anagrams of liberal could be stingy, mean, bigoted, or conservative. So camper van also had an advertisement for a natural addiction treatment hanging over it, which according to reports advertises the use of psychedelic drug. I don't know how to pronounce that word, some kind of psychedelic drug that the Pepe family brought back to the United States from Mexico with them. Jesus Christ, dude. So yeah, needless to say, this guy's just a fucking nut. And I guarantee that this story is going to go pretty much out the window now that it's fucking known, dude. So anyway, and that's pretty much where we're at for the day, man. Mostly because it's like fucking 5 a.m. right now, and I'm tired as fuck, and I feel like I'm about to fall asleep here on stream right now. So, but yeah, Paul, I don't know, man. Fucking crazy, man. I'm not the least bit surprised that this happened. I'm surprised it took this long for something like to come out, honestly, dude. And like I said, cause correlation. You hang out with fucking people and bang random dudes and stuff, dude. Like, eventually you're gonna get in a hammer fight with some man. Is what it is. Or, going back full circle, you allow for, government / corporate takeover of our society for decades. And then you end up with various fucking groups that are all abortion on demand, Antifa, BLM, all kinds of crazy shit like that, dude. They're all government backed, is what it is, dude. So, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I'm going to keep on keeping on. And hopefully at some point I'll find me somebody. A missus, hopefully at some point down the road. I'm gonna start talking to one chick that I've known from high school. She's a couple years older than I am right now. And she was always somebody I was going to try to get in a relationship with back then and never got a chance to, unfortunately. So I know she's single right now, so I might start something up right now with her. But nothing else. That's where I'm at right now for the whole thing. And yeah, and this is, let's see if I can pop this up here. Yeah, senior citizens have no business running our country, or no. No, that was a different one. Yeah, the senior citizens have no business running our country. Exactly. And I've said that for decades now, dude. When you have fucking the silent generation, which is what Biden, trying to think, Biden, Feinstein, Chuck Grassley, who's a Republican. I think Pelosi falls into that. I know Maxine Waters does. And a handful of others as well on that one, dude, that are like late 70s, early 80s and stuff like that, or even late 80s, early 90s. They all fall into that silent generation uh, age range. And then you got people like Chuck Schumer and others along that age range that are all the older baby boomers in our generation or of that generation and stuff like that, dude. And it's like, yeah, when you got silent generation and baby boomers running this country for 30, 40 fucking years now, this is why we need term limits. This is why we need automatic disqualification of every seat of power in this country. It's why we need age limits and health limits. And it's why we need auto DQs from running for office, dude. Because if you actually had those 4 to 5 things in place right now, maybe a sixth one even for that matter, for other stuff on that one, or maybe it would just be like a list of disqualifiers for auto DQs. Would it be then in that list of stuff? The entire point is our country would be way better off, dude. And unfortunately, the real problem is there's a lot of third-party candidates that want to talk big and stuff like that, dude. And then there's a lot of people that are just fucking nuts, dude. Like that one guy who's a libertarian out of, I think it was Arizona for the Senate race there. And I want to say that he was brought up on Honda Stream last night. If I'm thinking that's the same guy I'm thinking it is, dude, that dude was talking about how the age of consent should be voted upon. And it's like, that dude looks like a Weasley-ass pedo, man. For real. And when he's talking about shit like that, like, I'm side-eyeing that motherfucker of like, should this dude be investigated for stuff at this point, dude? Because who the fuck says he doesn't have a laptop full of child porn out there or something, dude? I mean, for fuck's sakes, man. Like, and he made those statements, by the way, during that Senate debate, dude. They're in, I think it was Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, or New Mexico, or one of those two is what it was, dude. It was whatever the one Mark Kelly is the current senator of, and then Blake Masters running against him there. It was that third guy in the race there was like talking about that shit, and I'm just like, bro, what the fuck you talking about? Consent should be voted upon. It's like the legal age of consent is 18, motherfucker, and that's where it should be. You fucking creepo. Like Jesus fuck, dude. And that's really that's really my problem with sort of the libertarian like base party and their platform and stuff like that to begin with, is that kind of shit, dude. Because it's like, yeah, you might have like a good platform here or there, but then you have like all these nutters out there that are part of it, dude. They're like gonna take it to the most extreme fucking side of something, is what it is, man. So it's like, even if you have that like third party or whatever, it's like they might be an extremist themselves on that one, dude, where it's like extreme fucking, creeper over here or whatever, dude. And to me, that kind of almost falls like a left wing mentality on that one as well, dude, because again, it seems to be the left over there, the ones that's talking about, child grooming and shit like that, or actually not talking about, but they're the ones doing it, is what it is, in these school systems and stuff like that. So much so when they're pushing all the fucking, gender ideology and transgenderism and everything else like that, dude. And again, it's these same kind of kids that were college age commies, that they were the ones that went to the third wave feminist courses and fucking women and gender studies courses and everything else like that, and have like a minor in those or a major in those and a minor in fucking early childhood development or something like that, dude. And that's what their actual job is then. And it's like, good Lord, man. Like, this is why we need proper vetting in these schools now, is what it is, man, for real. Because that's the kind of shit that like just leads to insanity, is what it is, dude, for real. And I think honestly, going back to the whole thing with, higher power stuff, when they took God out of schools, it really fucked this country, dude. And that was in my early years in school, dude, honestly. Now, granted, am I saying we shouldn't have a separation of church and state? Of course we should. But the thing is, you also shouldn't have fucking Satanist classes after school, dude, in some fucking club or some shit either, for that matter. Unless you're going to do some like, Christianity, Judaism, whatever else kind of club as well, dude, for that matter. So, and yeah, that's exactly what's happened now. You've had Satanism infiltrate these schools, is what it is, through the fucking staff and everything else like that, is what it ends up being, dude. So, and that's why I've said many times, I believe truthfully we are in a fight for good and evil right now, dude. And I think truthfully you're starting to see the beginnings of a mass awakening in this country and across this earth, basically, where people are finally realizing who the true evil is in this world and are outing it for what it is, dude. Whether it be the Bilderberg group, whether it be their fucking puppets, which is pretty much every globalist leader across the book right now, from fucking Biden and company to that motherfucker Macron over there in France, to Justin Trudeau up in Canada, and so forth and so on, dude. Fucking Jacinda Ardern over there in New Zealand and shit. Yeah, they're all a bunch of fucking creepy fuckers, is what it is, dude. And they're all a bunch of globalist puppets, is what it is, man. And when you have people finally fighting back against the oppressors, is what it is, dude. I think that's going to be one of the best days in this country's history when people finally have that mass awakening and are like, no, we're not going to be your debt slaves anymore. We're not going to be your fucking underlings anymore. And we're going to take back our freedoms no matter what you like or not. And I believe truthfully that day is coming very soon. And whether that be a balkanization across this earth in most cases, or whether that be, just a balkanization here in America, or whether it be something else for that matter, whether it be, sort of a thing where the original American Revolution kicked off, the French Revolution and a bunch of others after that across this earth. And then maybe it's going to be ping ponging back where it's some other country kicks something off now, and then it comes all the way back to America in a year or so is what it is, dude. Because we're already seeing basically fights now. Places like Sweden and Switzerland and stuff like that, where they're trying to do have the farmers cull like 90% of their fucking herds is what it is, dude. And the people are taking tractors full of shit and putting them on the fucking parliament doorstep and stuff like that. Yeah, that's what needs to happen, dude. It's like, no, fuck you and fuck your bullshit regulations, dude. Like, we ain't putting up with it. We're going to vote your asses out is what it is, dude. And I believe we're going to see more and more of that happen, honestly, dude. And the only reason that, honestly, you haven't seen it go into a full, I think, bloody civil war in this country right now is because it's just that. You have people realizing that are in power that keep trying to steal our gun rights and steal our guns is what it is, dude. The, people that shouldn't even be in office right now because they're a bunch of scumbag fucking criminals that they have sat there and realized, oh, if all the American citizens have guns and can fight back against the tyrannical government with them, like, we're not going to do well is what it is here. Versus, oh, if we disarm them, then it's going to be a one-sided fucking fight. It's just going to be democide is what it is, dude. And it's why I will fight to my dying breath, honestly, for Second Amendment rights for everybody in this country, dude. It's why I will fight for the rights of the people, and it's why I have done what I need to do right now to make sure that Ohio became a constitutional carry state, and it's why I will continue to do the same in 2023 with places like Pennsylvania and Michigan and any other state within a correlation to mine that is our sister states and our brother states and everything else like that, dude, because I believe truthfully you will see a lot of that happen. And there in the coming days, actually, I'll be doing a wargaming of exactly what states I think have a very good possibility to be constitutional carry states in the 2023 election, after the 2023 cycle through the election here, of who's going to be the new governors potentially in these states and how things could change there very quickly is what it is, and how you could have a couple of general assemblies flip and what it will take to actually get things done then. Because I think we have at least 4 to 5 right now that could easily become a constitutional carry state next year, whether it be Pennsylvania first or Michigan first. I'm not sure which, dude, but both of them have the chance of getting a new governor. And depending on those new governors, I think there's a very high likelihood that they both get on the docket very quickly, is what it is in their general assemblies, dude. So, anyway, other than that, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. Like I said, I'll be back for the wargaming here probably Monday, Tuesday, honestly, because it's going to take me a couple of days to start gathering some stuff here and there, and it takes me a little while to get things sorted and whatnot. So I'm just going to go ahead and say sometime on Tuesday. I'll probably do it then, because it'll be about a week before the election then, and that way we can just talk about things then. Plus the fact that Monday is Halloween, baby. Those who don't know about that yet. So, ooh, spooky. Actually, today is All Hallows Eve for that matter. So, you got all kinds of fucking demon shit going on today, man. For those who don't know, actually, All Hallows Eve, the 30th of October, is actually one of the best days for people to do like spells and rituals and stuff like that, to do like summoning and shit, dude. And I would not be surprised in the least if a lot of people were right now, honestly, dude. Bunch of crazy motherfuckers out there doing some witchcraft, or fucking Whitmer and the other two up in Michigan doing their fucking hocus pocus shit up there. So, and by that I mean Gretchen Whitmer, Jacqueline Benson, and Dana Nissel all coming together around the cauldron, doing their little stirring in the pot. Is what it is. Witches of the Midwest for sure, man. But anyway, yeah, hopefully they'll all get voted out of office in a little over a week now, dude. and you can have Michigan then have a new governor, new Secretary of State, new AG, and that'd be fucking awesome, dude. And sort of the same thing with Pennsylvania for that matter, because I think already you're gonna have a new AG there because I believe it is Josh Shapiro that's the current AG is the one that's running for the Democrat nominee for governor. So hopefully he can get beat by Doug Mastriano for governor, and then Mastriano being governor, and then you would have a new AG, and then I'm not sure about Secretary of State there right now, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with Pennsylvania's General Assembly though. Hopefully it'll flip a little bit more red, I think, with the midterms here. And I know there was a lot of Democrats, or at least like blue dogs anyway, is what I like to call them, that were on board with constitutional carry this past General Assembly. It's just that piece of shit Tom Wolf that refused to sign off on is what it was, dude. And they didn't have the veto override is what it was. But yeah, there was definitely a handful of Democrats, I think, that potentially could actually be running for re-election as Republicans right now in Pennsylvania. And they would probably get back into office then. And then you would have most likely a few other seats flip to more of like sort of a constitutionalist red is what it would be then. And maybe then you'd actually have like Pennsylvania finally be able to get that shit with like a veto proof majority then maybe. So anyway, because God forbid Shapiro wins over there, dude. That guy should really be in jail right now, honestly, dude. For those that haven't heard about Josh's ass in PA, he did some shady shit earlier this year where it was having the state cops basically, first of all, commit, I think it was a felony based on the fact that they were doing undercover recordings when you have Pennsylvania being a two-party consent state. And then he also had basically create a P80 kit for him into a real gun. And it's like, pretty sure that's illegal, man. Because when you look at state laws and even like federal laws, it's like, yeah, pretty sure that shit don't fly, dude. And yeah, he is a scumbag, man. He is a fucking scumbag for sure. So, plus he's an anti-gun fuckboy for Bloomberg as well. So it'd be nice to see Mastriano win there, because especially when you have MSNBC coming out the other day and talking to Pennsylvania voters about like, oh, well, Doug Mastriano was at the fucking January 6th thing. And they're like, okay, where exactly was he at there in the fucking supposed Capitol and stuff like that? Did he ever go into any place and stuff like that? And yeah, those people called their asses out, man. And I'm so glad to see that shit. People finally waking up to that crap is what it is, man. And I think there's going to be a lot of those people that vote for Mastriano then. So, and I think it would be his governorship in Pennsylvania that would lead to constitutional carry potentially, or somebody similar to that, because it would have to be, there's no way it would be a leftist that would sign that shit into place, dude. It'd have to be somebody on the Republican side or an independent for that matter that would actually be pro-gun that would sign a constitutional carry in Pennsylvania then. So, but yeah, I was thinking about all day yesterday about how we could actually get Colorado to be a constitutional carry state like in the next basically 5 years or so. And it would take exactly that long pretty much. It would be a whole new governor that would have to be a two-term governor, and it would be, you would have to flip a lot of their blue seats there to red, and then you would have a situation there where it would be, you'd have to have them reinstate, first of all, you have to have them reinstate preemption law at a state level. And then after that, it would be, you start knocking down all the anti-gun shit after the fact then. All these different city bans and municipality bans and stuff like that for different parts of places like Denver or whatever, like major cities in the state and stuff like that, since they don't have preemption anymore. Because you'd be like, no, your preemption, this preemption is now being broken by you because you're pushing in, you have anti-gun bullshit in place when it's not going to be that way at a state level is what it is. And then it would be from there, you do a reversal of that, all the anti-gun crap after the fact, and it would be, you'd be repealing all the, assault weapons bans, everything else like that at a state level there. And then you'd be pushing after the fact, and like, that would all happen in the first, like, basically 2 years is what it would be. And then it would be like year, like 3, 4 is where you start like introducing the constitutional carry stuff. And then it'd probably be like year 5 is when it actually gets into place then. So anyway, other than that, that's pretty much where we're at for the day. And like I said, I will be back to discuss that stuff in a later time. But as it is right now, I think we kind of covered what I wanted to cover today, except I obviously forgot about that one thing because fucking somebody's distracting comments in the comment section there. So I have no idea where I was actually going with that original statement on that either. Like it just, I was going down the road and I knew what I was going to say, and then it was just like out the fucking window as soon as I read somebody's comment there, and I was like, fuck. So yeah, unfortunately, that's my autistic mind for you, man. But anywho, like I said, I'll be back probably sometime on Tuesday. I don't think I'll be back on Monday at all. Just because of Halloween and stuff, and I got stuff I gotta do then too. So mostly probably gonna have trick or treaters come on Monday night, and then pick up some candy from us. As long as I don't eat it all before they get here, is what it is. So, but anyway, other than that, that's where I'm at for the day. Hope y'all enjoyed this. You know, almost 2 hour chat here. And like I said, I'll be back for the other one. Come on Tuesday there for a Wargaming 2022, and then we'll start doing probably Wargaming 2023s sometime next year then, for where we're sitting at for various stuff and how Louisiana potentially could become a constitutional carry state next year as well after the governor's race there, because of course, you know, that idiot John Bell Edwards is finally going to be termed out of office. Thank fuck. Hopefully some other assholes will be thrown out of office after the shit they pulled with vetoing, with I shouldn't say vetoing it, but voting against the legislation that they were on favor of after they got fucking kickbacks and stuff. And then you'll actually have a new General Assembly hopefully there, and obviously you'll have a new governor, and potentially Louisiana could be, you know, 28th, 29th, 30th, something like that, most likely. So anyway, like I said, we'll be back to talk about some of that stuff later on though. And till then, I will see you guys in the next one.